Hey guys, it's Shelly and it's Shelly Loves to Paint, and we are back again with another fun lesson for the fall season. This will be kind of wrapping up the fall designs for this year. This is 2025, depending on when you're watching this, and it is October, and we are in that harvest slash Halloween time of year. I love this design because it's kind of a harvest look, but you could turn it to Halloween if you wanted to by just changing up the face a little bit or some of the colors. But we're going to gear this towards just a good-natured harvest fun painting today. Okay, so I am on an 8 by 10 wrapped canvas. The pattern for this is available in the pinned comment at the top of the comments page. You will see, and there's a link there. You can download and print that pattern and transfer it to an 8 by 10 canvas or enlarge it, whichever you prefer, and paint along with me. And I hope you will. Please share your paintings when you do, because I love to see how yours turn out in comparison to mine. So it's a lot of fun for me. Um, the colors that I'm working with, Plaid multi-surface FolkArt and matte colors. Multi-surface is, of course, usable on all kinds of surfaces, canvas, wood, glass, fabric, anything you can think of, really, plastic. And then the matte colors, which, you know what, I'm not using any matte colors today, so I think that won't be necessary to talk about. But the matte colors are the other colors that we like to use that have a matte finish instead and are not multi-surface. So anyway, the colors I'm working with are, let's start up here. We're using Coffee Latte, Bark Brown, which has got a reddish tint to it, Burnt Umber, Yellow Ochre, Daffodil Yellow, Pueblo, Look at Me Blue, Wicker White, Skyline, and Licorice. And then we have some floating medium here in the middle in case I need it. Okay, so I've put my colors out, I've tapped them to spread them out, and that gives me more edges to side load on if I need to. And normally I would put my background on and then transfer my pattern, but because I used my canvas to create my pattern with, and I don't want, because this was penciled on, it would smear if I did sponging. But if you were to do this on your own, I would highly recommend doing the background first with a sponge. All right, you dampen that with your fingers in water and then pick up the background colors. And then let that dry and transfer the pattern on. All right, but today, because my pattern's already on my canvas, I'm going to use a flat brush. So this is a 3/4 inch, 1-stroke Donna Dewberry flat brush. Got that damp and laid on paper towel. I'm going to pick up some floating medium just to help me thin the color a little bit and help it move. And then I'm working with the Look at Me blue, a little bit brighter color, and some white. So just picking those up with that medium on the brush, okay? And we're just going to come right in here and fill in our sky. I'm going to come right up to my Scarecrow here. Isn't he cute? And see, if I touch that pencil, it starts to spread with the color. So I want to be careful of that. That's why I didn't use my sponge. So white and Look at Me blue. Right, and then make sure you get the sides when you're on a wrapped canvas. And that way you don't have to frame it if you don't want to, but you can. 8 by 10s are good to frame because they come with, or they come in that standard size, so you can get a frame for these. But I always like to finish the edges of my canvases, so that becomes an option, okay? All right, so we'll just quickly fill this in. And I don't want a ton of movement in this sky, so I'm going to keep that to a minimum. See, I'm already right there. You can see where it picks up that gray from the graphite and the pencil. I'm just going to kind of smooth this out. You can go side to side or up and down. It's up to you. Or you can leave the movement. It's fine as well. Okay. And then we're going to have him standing in a field. When I used to work, when I used to work in IT, I worked for a large automotive company in Michigan, and they every year would plant this big field of sunflowers, and it was just remarkable to look at and drive by every day on my way into work. In the fall, they would be in bloom. So I thought it would be kind of fun, instead of corn or wheat or whatever, to do a field of sunflowers that he's standing in. All right, so I'm just going to kind of let this trail off at the bottom. And this particular scarecrow has no bottom. He's just a top. Okay, so there we have our sky in. And I think that looks pretty good. You could do clouds if you want to. I'm just going to keep this a nice, clear, crisp fall day with our pretty blue sky. All right, and then let's get that paint out of there. And we will come and add our bottom part. So what I want to do for this is, underneath all these sunflowers, it's going to be kind of dark. So I want this bark brown, and then I'm getting a double load on this 3/4 flat of bark brown and coffee latte. Get some medium. And what we're going to do with this is just pull it up from the bottom into that blue. We'll add some green, maybe. I'm probably going to have most of this field filled with the sunflowers, so it doesn't really matter. Might just pull some leaves at the top. So, but this is just an underpainting for what goes on top with our sunflowers. So I'm lifting as I pull up into that sky as our background. And I'm making it kind of jagged, so don't make it all one straight line. We want uneven edges. Okay. And then you can go, once you get that all in there, then you can make some adjustments if you want to before it dries. And then I'm going to grab some more of that color and do some chisel vertical strokes. Just so we've got some kind of stems to work with. Okay, so that pretty much fills in our background for our design. I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush, and we won't use that big brush anymore. So the next thing I want to work on is the scarecrow itself. Okay, so kind of a backwards to the front pattern. You want to start, I'm going to start with the face first. So I've got a 12 flat, and we're going to get white. So this is wicker white, and then come work in some coffee latte with that white. So we're making a light tan. Okay. And then I'm going to side load some stronger coffee latte. And let's come down a little closer. All right, so with that stronger color to the outside edge, we're going to come around. And this might smear some of that pencil marking on the face, but that's okay. I just didn't want gray in my skies. All right, pick up a little more of that white and fill in the center. So it's got a light color in the center and then it goes out to a darker edge. And underneath the hat, put some more of that, shade some more of that coffee latte. So we're shading with paint in this case, with paint wet on wet, rather than waiting for it to dry and floating, okay? So I want just a touch more white here in the middle of the face, just to lighten that up a little bit. There. So then when we add the face features on there, it will look brighter, okay? All right, wipe that brush off, and then I'm going to come and get burnt umber. And then we're going to double load this 12 with burnt umber, and let's get a little coffee latte with that. That was bark brown, but I want that a little bit lighter. So let's go with burnt umber and coffee latte. Okay. All right, so with this, we're going to come up underneath with that dark edge right there, and then pull down on the flat into our sunflowers. Okay. And then I like to take on the chisel edge a little more of that burnt umber, and you can kind of tap that down the wooden pole that he's sitting on to give it a little bit of a wood grain. You can even, let's side load a little bit of white on that other edge. Right, and you can tap a little bit of that into one side to kind of lighten that up. Okay. All right, so the next thing I want to do is, let's switch to a bit of a smaller brush. We're going to put the straw coming out of the sleeves and out of the hat and on the bottom. So I'm going to switch to it. This is an 8 flap. All right, and we're going to pick up coffee latte, and then we're going to start with that, side stroke some burnt umber, and then occasionally we're going to pick up some yellow ochre to help lighten up some of that. So coming out of the bottom of the shirt, chisel edge strokes, leading with that light color, or excuse me, yeah, leading with the light color, we're trailing some dark behind, and I want it fairly dark right up against. You can kind of tap, let's tap that along first, just so we have, you can actually just go like this, and then start pulling it out. Okay, right over the pole. So you know you're not seeing that straw over the dark of that pole. So for sure we want to get some yellow ochre in there. So if I just grab that on the chisel edge, it's going to add some light gold color to our straw. Can even get a little bit of white there. Just barely get it on the chisel edge and do a few of those light strokes. See? So we're going to repeat that process on the arms and the hat and the hair. All right, so little chisel strokes coming out from the sleeve. So just put that dark right up against that sleeve first and then pull out on the chisel. So I'm going to do all of those two color strokes, and then we'll come back and do the lighter strokes for everything. So back here behind the head, let's get a little more of that dark. We're going to come and then under from the hat and across the face a little bit. And I really want to spray that out, so give it a little bit of a curve. We don't want to cover up the eyes too much, but have it dark underneath that hat. And then you can have a few, come on, lost my chisel edge. Have a few come out, there we go. All right, now I'm gonna pick up that yellow ochre and let's side stroke some, oops, I got blue, I want that. Yellow ochre, and we'll come on this side then. Side stroke some white, still with this 8 flap. Okay, and so now, whoops, I think I did forget to do the top of the hat, but that's fine. I've already got this on here, so we'll do this first. Okay, so just a few light touches. All right, so we can come back up then to the top of the hat and we'll get those two colors again. So I'm going to get the coffee latte and the burnt umber. And I'm going to lead with the burnt umber this time, trailing the coffee latte behind. So this is a little bit lighter. But let's tap in that coffee latte right here at the top. Not coffee latte, burnt umber, excuse me, the darker color. And then I'm just trying to eliminate any white. All right, so that's our dark color. Then come get your yellow ochre and side stroke a little bit of white. First put the yellow ochre in over that brown, reverse the brush, so now you're trailing the white, and that's what you're going to see. With that gold color, it really brightens it up. There. You can go right off the top. And if you lose all your dark, you can come back in with a little bit right in front. There. Isn't he cute? All right. So now let's finish the face. I'm going to get my 2 flat here, and I'm going to, let's get that damp, and we'll get some Pueblo. We'll come right in here and do the nose, right? And then you can side stroke just a touch of burnt umber on that edge, and I want to come along the left side of his nose up to the point. So it just darkens it a little bit on that edge, and then a little on the bottom. There. Oh. There we go. Okay, this cute little nose. And I'm going to go ahead and clean that, and let's get some Pueblo again and some white and work that together. And we can come right in here on those cheeks and put a pretty little blush there. Okay. Then I can take my handle of my brush, dip it into the licorice, and we will dot the eyes here and here. There. Wipe that handle off. And then let's get our script liner, get some water and a little inky licorice. Work that water in with the licorice next to the puddle. Get it all into the bristles and then twist as you come out so you get a nice tip without a drop. And we're going to go right from here, a little wiggly mouth line. And put a little curve there, a little curve there. And then through that, we can do little stitch lines. There. And we can outline the nose and add a few little stitch lines there. And then with the eyes, a few lines coming down like that. Isn't it cute? All right, and you might even take just a little bit with that liner and you can pull some out, some little black lines out on the straw. Just here and there. Okay. All right, so let's work on the hat now. I'm going to come back to my 12 flat and we're going to get yellow ochre. And let's side load a little bit of the daffodil yellow with this. All right, so yellow ochre. And so I'm going to come along with the daffodil yellow edge down. And just kind of making sure I cover up any open spaces there on between the hat and the straw. Okay, and then I want to take that same daffodil yellow and I'm going to side stroke some white on that. And we're going to come up, create some little folds in this hat. Right, so you're just coming on the chisel edge and pulling up towards the top of the hat. And then right here, we'll flip. So dark in the center and it's light on the outside edge. Little band right there. So it's like a wrap. So I can grab a little bit of this burnt umber on the chisel edge and add those, like a twine is wrapping the hat attached to the straw. Do a little bit more of the yellow ochre maybe back in there. You know what it needs is some white. Let's get a little bit of white. There. Just for a few highlights. Okay. All right, so now let's work on our shirt. And I'm going to use the Skyline for that. So this is Skyline, this kind of dusty blue. All right, and let's get a little bit of white on one side, work that in. I don't want it white, whoops, sorry. I don't want it white, I want it worked into a lighter blue on one half, okay? So with that, we're gonna come along the sleeves here. Push all the way up. Get a little bit of medium in there to help that move. There we go, all the way up. And we'll come underneath. So let's reverse that color of the white now to the outside edge there. And come under that collar. It's like an old denim shirt that they're using. Let's get a little more of that white. And we'll come along the bottom edge here. Okay, and continuing with that, on this side, we'll put the little cuff here. And a little bit stronger white. There. Picked up a little bit of that yellow ochre, but that's okay. All right, and then down here, let's come from the bottom here. We're going to come make those little ripples there, and then we'll slide up into the sleeve. Okay, so let's add a little, I need to get some white side loaded there. Add a little bit of a highlight down the shirt and maybe create a few little folds in the fabric there. Okay, then continuing with, and actually I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Let's come back to our 8 flat, I think. Just because it's a little easier, and I want to get the Skyline on there. And side load that white. All right, so with the white down, a little bit more. There. Come underneath the head and then create that little point in the collar and up. The same here. Dark is underneath the head. And then you take the white down to the point and out to the edge. Okay. I think I lost my dark there. There. All right, and then down the shirt front where the buttons go, I'm just going to go right over these buttons. We'll just dot them back in there. Now I want to side stroke a little bit of Licorice on the blue edge, the darker blue edge, and we can shade right up under here, right? And we can shade right here. Under the sleeve, cuff. Under the collar. And along this side of the center. Okay. You can even do just a little bit of, I guess, wrinkles. There in the sleeves. A little bit up from the bottom. Do as little or as much of that as you want, but there's our shirt. And then we will take the handle of the brush, dip it into the black licorice, come right up here and dot, dot. I want to make sure I space them good, so we'll do this one and then we'll find the middle right there. Okay. So I think he turned out really cute. Let's take our script liner and get a little bit of white here. And we can, on each of these buttons, just do a little highlight stroke there. And maybe there on the eyes. Isn't he cute? Okay, so then to finish this, right, we've got him standing in a field of sunflowers. And so the quickest way to do that is we're going to take a my 8 flat again. And we're going to get, let's start with some daffodil yellow and some yellow ochre. So just grabbing those two colors, we're going to come out here and kind of slip slap or stroke loosely some yellow petals, like you're looking through the field of sunflowers. And you're just seeing this mass of yellow petals. So just keep picking up those two colors. And kind of filling this in. Have some of them go over. Over the pole, I should say. So we're going to do this kind of loose array of these sunflowers, and then we'll have a few close-up ones that you see. I'm going to grab just a touch of Pueblo now. I like that color in sunflowers. Okay, and then on the other side, do the same thing. So we'll come up here. And make sure when you're doing this, they're not all going up, right? You want some to go down like they're spraying out around the centers. So you do all the petals first. Make sure you get the edges. And get that Pueblo in there if you want it. All right, and then I'm going to grab just a little bit of burnt umber, and here and there with the corner of the brush, just lay in some centers. Okay, so now we can put in our closer ones, some actual sunflowers. And so what I want to do with that is, let's get a 1/4 inch Scruffy. Okay. And we'll just have that at the ready with burnt umber. Okay, so that's just ready to go. Set that to the side. And we're going to get on our 8 flat, we'll get the daffodil and yellow ochre. And occasionally we can side stroke white or Pueblo. Okay, so let's see, let's have one right here. Yeah, I definitely want to side stroke that white. Get that to show up a little bit. So we're going to make actual petal strokes. Right, see that? So that's what one looks like, and then you can take the burnt umber and just pounce that center. Okay, so we'll save that for last for each of these, but let's come in here. We'll do a little side view of one. Right. And whatever, when you don't want a color, just wipe your brush back off and get the two that you do want. Okay, and just let's do one up here. Kind of side facing. And we'll do a partial one here. Get some bright yellow. Maybe a little bit of white. Overlap those two, okay? And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And a little bit of white streak through there really helps those kind of pop. But when we put the centers in, then they'll really show up. Right, little bits of daffodil in there. You really need that Pueblo to help them kind of pop out. It's the light or the dark that helps. Okay, and so we've got 4 in there. Let's do another one here. And we'll throw one right in there. Like a partial. Okay, and let's put one right here in the middle over the pole. There. All right, so now when we come in with our center color, and you can use the burnt umber, you can use the bark brown, whichever you prefer. But we're going to come right in here and pounce. And you can change the orientation a little bit so that it turns the flowers. Let's have a little partial one here. And a full center in that one. So you know it's coming to life with those. And we're not being perfect with these. So we've got a partial one there, and then we'll put that one right there. Okay, so last thing I want to do, we're just going to throw in a few green leaves with this, and you'll notice there wasn't any green on my palette. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that 8 flat again, and we're going to get our daffodil yellow, oops, and our look at me blue. And we're making a pretty green, kind of a bright green, and it's going to be real subtle. All right, so just here and there, we can stroke some leaves. And if you want to, you can side load a little bit of white to help have a little dimension to them so they're not so flat. Right? So, but with these sunflower fields, you don't see a ton of leaves. All right, there we go. Now, one last thing I want to do is I want to take my 12 flap, and we're going to get floating medium on that. And we're going to come and side load some burnt umber. Side loading halfway across the brush fades from strong to nothing. Right, and so at the base, let's see if this will show. Yeah, that's going to show just fine. So underneath our Scarecrow body, right, at the sleeves, under the hat. You have to wait for all those strokes to dry so that you don't smear the paint. Right. Now under that hat, I might just get a little bit of licorice in there because that's not showing real strong. There. Right, and then above the hat. There we go. And you could come right along here. And under the head here. There. All right, so let me get my script liner and we will come out. Oh, he's so darn cute. All right, let's get some inky licorice. And we will come right down here and sign it. And there you go, our fun fall harvest scarecrow in a sunflower field. How fun is that? I hope you will try this and make it yours. Change up the colors, do whatever you want to in your field, and just enjoy it. Have a great time. Thank you so much for watching Shelly Loves to Paint. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this lesson. Give me feedback in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Share your paintings after you create them. I'd love to see them. And I will see you again next time. God bless to you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.